Hey there. We're live in Ogden. It is Sunday, May the 10th, 2020. It's been a while since I've done a video of any of my machines, and by popular demand, this is my 1956 Whirlpool Imperial Washer. It's a machine that I guess I neglect to show off because it's just one of those machines that's so damn reliable that it's not giving me any trouble. You don't hear me bitching and whining and cursing about like having leaks and issues. And part of the reason for that is because when I bought the machine in 2012, it was professionally rebuilt from the ground up. It was also an opportunity for me to learn how one does do a rebuild of a Whirlpool, Kenmore, or Inglis machine, and I have rebuilt Whirlpool, Inglis, and Kenmore machines since based on the knowledge that I acquired. But anyway, here's the machine itself before we start her up. As you notice, it's got more lights on the dashboard than a 1958 Buick. Light up push button release for the lid. And might point out that in 1956 it was just a simple friction catch lid. The electric interlock that they had earlier, I believe in the 1954 or 55 models, was long gone by then. And let's just have a look inside the tub here. And you can see that I've got the ozone light, very important in these days of COVID-19. All my laundry will be not only freshened, it will be sanitized. Ooh. So there we go. That's the inside of the machine. I'm going to just load her up, start her up, and we'll go through phases of the cycle. This is not going to be a full cycle demo video. I don't have the bandwidth to be able to do that. And the people at the local IGA get really pissed off with me when I upload from their site. So anyway, here we go. We're going to load up the machine and start it up in just a sec. Alright, so the clothes are loaded and we're ready to start up, but before I do, I guess I should share a little bit of the history of this machine. It is a machine that was found originally in the pool house, if you can imagine, along with its matching dryer in the Baltimore, Maryland area. It belonged to a fairly fancy family, obviously, if they could afford to have a washer and dryer dedicated just to their pool house. Which unfortunately is why the chrome trim on both this and its matching dryer are somewhat pitted. You don't really see it there, but they're not in terrific shape. But anywho, so these machines were saved by a collector in the Maryland area. He was actually featured in a People magazine article way back in 1978 as having a passion for collecting, restoring, and saving vintage washing machines. He kind of kicked off a movement that evolved into a club that I now belong to. He quickly got in touch with a fellow in Beltsville, Maryland, who runs a appliance repair business, but who was also a devotee of vintage washers, dryers, dishwashers, and was doing restorations on his own. The machines, this washer and dryer set, actually wound up with this fellow in Beltsville when the fellow from Baltimore had left the continental United States. He went to Hawaii. So the machines sat in a warehouse for a number of years, and I first saw them in 2010 at an event we call a Wash-In in Beltsville, Maryland. And I just fell in love with the set. I said, geez, if you ever want to get rid of those, please let me know. And 2 years later, in 2012, I got the call that the machines were available. And as part of the deal, they were the washer anyway was completely rebuilt. So, like I mentioned earlier, I got to actually see how that's done. And seeing is probably the best way to learn how to do these sort of things. And the knowledge has served me in good stead on what would be future projects. But I don't talk so much about this machine because it's, as I said before, it's just so darn reliable. I use it when, the Inglis was giving me motor issues, or when the GE filter flow started leaking, or when my Kenmore sud saver quit. So this machine has been my go-to for 8 years now almost. Isn't that amazing? So it just goes to show you what these things were built like. Alright, let's start her up. Get going with the wash. Alright, so here we go. Tub is almost full. That in itself takes a while because I live in the most rural part of Quebec that you could imagine. I'm on a well, and we have a pump, and the pressure is not great. Probably also one of the reasons why I use this particular machine a lot. It is not a timed fill machine. Some of my other, like Frigidairs, Easy, the old Blackstone that I had here in this house sometimes caused me some grief because they didn't fill up enough. But Whirlpool always had a pressure fill right from the get-go with a perf tub. So just let her fill up and start up, and you'll see the washing action. Look at her go, making that distinctive sound that only Whirlpool belt drive can make, the oscillating hum. Very comforting to listen to on a cold spring day like today. Get in a little closer here to show you the moving clothes around very nicely there. Happy to Whirlpool circulator at work. Just get a little bit of a close-up on some of the controls on the machine for you. Water temperature selection is a slider dial, and it has like a lens that will change as one changes selection of the temperatures. Full disclosure, it does not have hot, medium, and warm as temperature anymore. The original thermostatic water valve was shot when the machine was restored and replaced with the standard one, so now I've got a choice of hot in the hot setting, warm in the medium setting, and cold in the warm setting. And rinsing now is all cold water, but that suits me just fine. Good timer dial, lovely highlighted with backlights and glowing gold. You'll also notice there on the timer selection there is a delicate fabrics. That was a low-speed wash and spin, so that was a relatively new thing in 1956. And over here on our water level selection, like the temperature selection, we've got a sliding lever for medium, high, or low water levels. And there we go. Alright, so we're nearing the end of the wash part of the cycle. I'm just going to let it run through the neutral drain, spin, and spray for the drain and spin phase between the wash and rinse cycles. So just keep that going here for you. And for those not familiar with a Whirlpool belt-drive machine of this vintage, we're in the neutral drain. So that was Whirlpool's claim to fame from way back when they started with their first automatics. They drained the water out and then began to spin. There you go, you learned something new today if you didn't already know it. And our wigwag has kicked into spin, and away we go. first spray rinse just completed. Whirlpool's advertising bragged of having 7 rinses in their machines, which kind of was an overstatement because they had 3 spray rinses, 3 between wash and rinse, the deep rinse, and then 3 more spray rinses at the end. So 7 rinses was kind of an exaggeration. Of course, back in the day, a spray rinse like this was very important to get rid of the excess suds in the tub. People still wash with soap in a lot of cases, believe it or not. So that was necessary to kill down the suds so that they could do a decent rinse. Alright, so there we go. We're beginning the rinse phase of the cycle, filling up with cold water for the deep rinse. So I'm going to pause it here because, like I say, that just takes too long. So, back when we start rinsing. Okay, so we're back. We're filling for the final rinse. Tub is almost full here, so I'm just going to let it go. We'll go through the full rinse and final spin. Let's see how that goes. natural draining after the rinse, and getting ready for the final spin. Don't want to spoil the surprise, but you'll see what happens at the end of the spin with this machine. I'm just going to let it run and go right through. Enjoy. One thing that I always liked about a Whirlpool built machine is they come up to spin so smoothly. And in case you're wondering why I'm not too worried about that knocking sound that you hear, that is actually the rear plate of the machine that's loose. I never managed to get the motor access plate fitted back on properly from this machine. One of these days I'll get around to it, but it's not affecting the operation, it just makes it a little noisy, that's all. Nothing to worry about here, folks. So there you go, surprise! The buzzer sounds twice towards the end of the spin cycle. I guess kind of to say, Eddie, get your ass off the phone and get down here, the laundry's ready to go on the line. So, personally I don't really like that buzzer, but it's original, so... And there we go. Cycle over, lights off, machine stopped, clothes clean. What more could you ask for?